Hi everyone, my name's Lucy. I work in the Student Recruitment and Outreach Department at Aston University, and part of my job is to work with school and college students just like yourselves to give you more information about university and other options for your future. So that's why today we're going to be talking about future pathways. If you do have any questions about anything that's covered in this video, please feel free to email me or another member of the team at sro@aston.ac.uk. So here's what this session is going to cover. First of all, we're going to start by thinking about your future, so that concept of the future and why you should start thinking about it now rather than later. We're then going to look at the university pathway in a little bit more detail, as well as the apprenticeship pathway in a little bit more detail. And we're going to have a look at how to decide what's right for you. So starting to think about your future then. I know things like going to university and starting a career might seem like a really, really long way away to you now, especially because you're only just starting your GCSEs. But actually, the earlier you can start thinking about your future, the better. So at this point, I usually ask students why they think it's important to start thinking about the future now rather than later when they're in year 12 or 13. I know I can't ask you that. So I've included some of my favourite responses that other students have come up with when I've asked them this question in the past. So first of all, someone said it means that you have more time to think about your options and to make an informed decision. And that's completely true. So the earlier you start thinking about your options, the more time you have to explore whether it is the right option for you. So you could read up on courses or read up on careers, get some work experience, do some extracurricular activities to explore the option, all of these things before you actually decide to commit to it, because you don't want to end up in a position where you start working really hard to get onto a particular course, or you actually start a particular job and then you find out once you've started that you actually don't like it and it's the wrong option for you. The second answer is that it gives you more time to make sure you've got the right skills, qualifications and experience. So again, this is really true. University courses and job roles have got entry requirements, meaning that you'll need a certain level of experience to apply, as well as certain GCSEs and A-levels and other qualifications. So you want to make sure that you've got the right ones to be able to progress onto that course or into that career that you want to do. And finally, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. Now, I think this is actually a quote, so you might have heard this one before, but again, it's a really, really good point that somebody made. So if you don't know what your options are, there might be a course or career you'd actually be really, really interested in, but you've never even heard of now and you're not aware of it now. And that's actually what happened to me. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this idea of thinking about your future from as early on as possible. So you'll actually notice that one of the pictures I've included on the screen is of a prosthetic hand, and that's because I would love to be a biomedical engineer, but I only found out that that career even existed when I went to university and I was already studying English. So if I'd thought about my future and what career I wanted to do earlier, and if I'd researched into options rather than just choosing English because that's what I was good at in school, I'd have probably ended up with a really different career to the career I've got now. So, I mean, I could decide to change my career, but that would mean having to go back to college and do A-levels in science and maths because I chose English and drama and Spanish. And then going to university to do a biomedical engineering degree, and altogether that would take me about 5 or 6 years. So I can do it, but it would have just been a lot easier if I'd have thought about what I wanted to do back when I was your age, because by now I'd already have the skills and the qualifications in place to start working as a biomedical engineer. Now, I do have to say, though, I am lucky because I have ended up with this job that I really do like and I'm really passionate about, so you don't have to worry about me. But it's just something for you to start thinking about. So I'm going to give you a bit more information now about the university pathway. We'll move on to the apprenticeship pathway a little bit later on. But if you do take on the university pathway, you'll end up doing something called an undergraduate degree. And that's the degree that most people do. Some people will move on and do a master's degree or a PhD if they want to do further study. But like I said, the majority of people will do the undergraduate degree. And that degree is usually 3 or 4 years long, depending on whether there's anything that you want to add to your degree experience. So it could be that your normal course is 3 years, but you decide that you want to spend an extra year studying abroad in a different country. Or it could be that you want to add a year's worth of work experience into your degree. So that's why it would usually vary from 3 or 4 years. Some courses are shorter, they're called accelerated courses and they can be done in 2 years. Some courses are a lot longer than this, and that's usually courses where there's just a lot of content for people to know. So if you wanted to be a doctor or an architect, for instance, that's the type of course where there's a lot of content for you to know, so it's going to take a lot longer. So some courses like that can last 6, 7 or even 8 years sometimes. But like I said, the vast majority of courses will last for 3 or 4 years. The undergraduate degree is mainly classroom-based learning, and what I mean by classroom-based is it's not usually mainly work experience based, but a classroom can mean a whole variety of different things. So it could be a lecture theatre, for example, where you might get a couple of hundred students in a room listening to the lecturer speak at the front. It might be a seminar, which is a lot more like the classroom setup that you're used to now. So there'll be a group of maybe 10, 20 or 30 students that are being taught by a teacher and doing lots of kind of different interactive group work and things in that class. It could be that you are in a lab, so maybe you're doing a chemistry degree and part of your learning is going to take place in a chemistry lab. So there's lots of different places learning can take place at a university. If you did want to do this pathway as well, you usually would study 1 or 2 subjects. So at school you might be studying 10 plus subjects, but at university you just pick 1 or 2 options that you want to study for those 3 or 4 years. So there's 50,000 different subjects that you can choose from, so there's lots and lots of variety, which is really exciting. You can choose to study something that you already study at school, so maths, English, science, drama, history, languages, something like that. Or you could choose to do something completely new. So you might decide that you want to do law or psychology or anthropology or pharmacy. So something related to what you study at school because it uses those subjects that you're currently studying. But something that's more geared towards you getting a particular career. To get into university, the entry requirements can really vary. So some universities will ask for more than 5 GCSEs, or they might ask for A's at A level. Some universities might ask for C's at A level and 4s at GCSE. But generally, universities will ask for 5 GCSEs at a pass level or above, and then 3 A levels. The better you do in your GCSEs, the better you do in your A levels, the more options for university will be available to you. There are so many different benefits to going to university, from gaining a professional qualification to being able to be more independent and exploring different hobbies and interests even. We're going to look at them in a bit more detail over the next few slides. So probably one of the main benefits or the main reasons people go to university is to gain a professional qualification. And that's because to do some jobs you actually need a degree in a certain subject area to do that job. So if you think about the medical professions, for example, If you want to be a doctor, a nurse, a midwife, a paramedic, a dentist, anything like that, you do need to have a degree qualification in those subjects to be able to do those careers. And it's not just those subjects as well. So if you wanted to be an engineer, a lawyer, a teacher, you would need qualifications in those subject areas to be able to do those jobs. But actually, the more qualifications you have, the more jobs are going to be open to you, which is something that we've said before. So many companies that employ people with a degree, so graduates, they'll consider people with any degree background or any degree subject. And that's because of the transferable skills that you develop whilst you're studying for your degree. And those transferable skills are another benefit, because throughout your course you'll have the opportunity to develop several different transferable skills that are really, really valuable to employers and that employers really look out for. So things like organisation, which you get from making sure that you're on time to your lectures or your other lessons, that your coursework is on time, that you're balancing your schedule with time management. When you're doing work at university, you'll be doing research. That's another transferable skill. Group work, you'll be communicating with people, whether that's verbally communicating in groups, communicating in written language when you're doing essays and assignments. And creative thinking is another example of some of the top transferable skills that employers really value that you'll be able to learn and develop whilst you're doing your degree qualification. You'll also get the opportunity to challenge yourself academically at university, and that can be a benefit that some people are really interested in. So unlike school, where you've got to study kind of 10 plus different subjects, some of them you like and some of them you're not really that keen on, at university, because you study just one or two subjects, you have the opportunity to study something that you really, really love and you're really, really passionate about. And on top of that, you're taught by people who are experts in that field. So you're taught by university academics who've got current research into those topics and who are just as passionate about that topic as you are. And you'll also learn alongside other people who really enjoy that topic as well. And you'll have access to state-of-the-art facilities. So, for example, if you wanted to do mechanical engineering at Aston University, you actually, as part of one of the areas that you study, you're able to build and race your own Formula Student car. So that's not something that you'd necessarily be able to do at school, but something that you'd be able to do and that would be really fun and really challenging at a university. Getting work experience is another really great benefit of doing a university degree. So you wouldn't get as much work experience as if you did an apprenticeship, because that would be mainly work-based learning. But on a degree, many students do work experience as part of their course. So that could be either that they have a placement year where they spend one whole year working in a company, either in the UK or abroad sometimes, to get some work experience, or sometimes the work experience placements are kind of integrated as part of their course. So they have to do certain work experience placements and they're assessed on those to be able to pass their course. Work experience placements are really, really attractive to employers, and they can help you figure out whether a career is for you or not. So some of our students will not only do one work experience placement during their course, they might do a couple of them. They might also take on some volunteering work, especially those students who aren't quite sure what career they want to go into in the future, or sometimes what company they want to work for in the future. Whether you do a work experience placement that's kind of a year long, or whether it's scattered throughout your course, you'll get support from our careers and placements team. So they can help you with writing CVs, having mock interviews, applying for jobs as well, and they can even support you for up to 3 years after university. And that's not just at Aston. Most universities' careers and placements team will be able to do that for you and give you that support even after you finished your degree. We also have earning more money as one of the big benefits of going to university. So on average, graduates, so people who've got a university degree, they earn more money over their lifetime than non-graduates. That is just an average, so it's not to say that everybody that goes to university will earn more money, or people who don't go to university will always earn less money. But it does mean that generally you'd earn more money if you did go to university. So for men, over their lifetime, they'll earn around about £170,000 more if they do have a degree than if they don't have a degree. And for women, it's more like £250,000 over their lifetime for those with a degree than without a degree. And that's just because of the qualification, the skills, the experience, the transferable skills that they get from going and doing a degree that make them more employable and mean more doors are open to them. And becoming independent is a really great benefit of going to university. So you don't have to do this. You can decide to live at home and commute into university. So you take the train or the bus or drive into university. But lots of people take going to university as an opportunity to move out and live independently, either on campus or in a house off campus with other students and with friends that they've met on their course. So this is a really, really great opportunity for people to gain life skills like cooking and cleaning and paying the bills. And I know those sorts of things sound like quite boring and quite adult, but I didn't really have any of those skills before I went to university. And I know one of the people that I lived with didn't even know how to chop an onion, like let alone cook a meal. But by the end of university, I felt so much more confident in doing those things, and it just really prepared me for the adult world. So they're really, really important skills that you can develop while you're at university. For those of you that are really, really independent, you also have the chance to travel the world if you go to university, which is an incredible opportunity. So some people will decide when they do a work experience placement, if they do want to do that, to go and do it abroad. So that could be somewhere in Europe, it could be in America, it could be in Canada, it could be in Asia. There's so many different countries that you can go to. Or some people will decide to take up a study abroad option, which is where they'll spend probably the same amount of time, about a year, as part of their degree, studying at another university in a different country. So that option is not just available to languages students. You could study something completely not related to languages and just go and live abroad and experience what it's like to live in that different country again. So a really fantastic opportunity. You'll graduate in university not only with your degree, but with the ability to say, I've travelled the world, I've lived in this country, I can potentially even now speak this language. So it really will help set you apart from other people who didn't have that experience and maybe don't have a degree. And finally, university is a great opportunity to develop socially and develop as a person and explore your hobbies and your interests. So at university, there are hundreds of things called clubs and societies for you to get involved with. And they're basically extracurricular opportunities, like things that you might do in school. It could be an extracurricular sports club or a debating club, but there's hundreds and hundreds for you to try out. You can decide to do something that you already do, or you can try something completely new. There's some really, really interesting, wacky ones. There's things like the Zombie Society, the Harry Potter Society, the Pirate Society, that you can get involved with. Or there's more traditional ones, so things like on the pictures on the left, like cheerleading and baking, like I said before, sports teams. And the best thing about it is, if a society doesn't exist, you can actually create your own. So if you go to a university and you decide that you really, really like anime, for example, but there isn't an anime society, as long as you can find 7 other people to join your anime society, you can set that up. And clubs and societies are basically an opportunity for you to have some fun, develop your social skills, meet people who've got the same interests as you, and just really start to develop fun times and memories that are going to last with you for a really, really long time. Okay, so moving on to the apprenticeship pathway then. I'm going to specifically speak about degree apprenticeships, but to be able to do a degree apprenticeship, you will need either an intermediate apprenticeship or A-levels, or an equivalent qualification before you move on to this step, because it is the same as taking an undergraduate degree. So you get the same qualification out of it at the end, but the learning experience that you'll have, the pathway that you'll have, is different. So whereas undergraduate degrees are usually 3 or 4 years long, degree apprenticeships are usually 5 or 6 years long, so they take a longer time to complete. That is because most of the learning that you're doing is going to be work-based. So effectively, you'll be working more or less 9 to 5, so full-time hours every day. And then you'll have opportunities throughout the year to do your studying at university. So that might be that you do a day or so a week, or it might be that you do a few months in your workplace and then take off a week or so to go and do your learning at university and then go back to work again. So there's different ways that it can work. Unlike university as well, where you've got lots of choice about what to study, remember we said that there's 50,000 courses that you can choose from at university. There's actually only 9 areas that you can choose from if you want to do a degree apprenticeship. They are business and administration, childcare and education, construction, creative and design apprenticeships, digital apprenticeships, health and science apprenticeships, legal and accounting, and protective services. So that would be an apprenticeship in something like the police force, for example. So there is less choice. That's because degree apprenticeships are a lot more practical and they're a lot more tailored to completing specific jobs, whereas at university you're kind of thinking more about sometimes at least the transferable skills that you're going to be developing and what you're interested in academically. But nevertheless, you'd still study your apprenticeship partly at a university, and you still get that same university degree qualification at the end. Another key difference between university degrees and degree apprenticeships is that with a degree apprenticeship, the employee chooses what you learn rather than you choosing what you learn. So at university, you'll have the option to choose different topics or different modules that you'd like to study. So you can say, oh, I'm really interested in this thing, I'd like to learn more about that, but I don't really have an interest in this area, so I'm not going to learn about that one. Because by doing a degree apprenticeship, you're being employed by a company, your company will want to make sure that you are learning specific areas of knowledge or specific skills that are going to benefit that company. So even if you're not interested in a particular area, you might need that area for your job. So your employer will say, you're going to study this. The entry requirements for degree apprenticeships are usually the same. So that would be 5 GCSEs at a level 4 or above, and 3 A-levels or an intermediate apprenticeship. And again, the better you do in the GCSEs and the A-levels, the more opportunities will be available to you. Thinking about the benefits of the apprenticeship pathway, or a degree apprenticeship in particular, they're actually very similar to the benefits that you'd get from studying an undergraduate degree. And that's basically because even though the learning style is different, one is very classroom based, one is very work experience based, you still get that same qualification at the end. So whether you do a degree or a degree apprenticeship, you still gain a professional qualification that's going to open the door to lots of different careers. You still challenge yourself academically. You're still able to develop transferable skills that are really valuable to employers. You still get work experience. You actually get a lot of work experience if you're doing an apprenticeship route. And you get the opportunity to earn more money once you've finished that degree apprenticeship qualification. The only 2 benefits that I'd question or which are kind of more difficult to get from a degree apprenticeship, is that opportunity to become independent and the opportunity to explore hobbies and interests. Because the likelihood is, from doing a degree apprenticeship, you'll stay and live at home. That's because you'll be working 9 till 5 pretty much every day. So even if you did decide to move out of your home, you wouldn't have as much opportunity to socialise with other students. And again, because you are working so much, your timetable isn't going to be as flexible as a university student, so you'll have less time to explore hobbies and interests by joining clubs and societies and things like that. So it's not to say that you absolutely can't move out and become independent, or you can't explore hobbies and interests, but it's just more difficult to do that if you are doing an apprenticeship pathway. So even if you don't have as much opportunity to be independent or explore hobbies and interests by doing a degree apprenticeship, there are two really big benefits from doing a degree apprenticeship that you wouldn't get from doing a normal or traditional university degree. That is, number one, that there are no tuition fees. So I'm sure you know that if you want to do a traditional university degree, you do have to pay around £9,000 per year to be able to do your course. Now, while that's really, it is a lot of money, university students pay for their courses generally by getting a loan from Student Finance England, and then they pay that money back at a really reasonable rate after they graduate. So it is affordable for everyone, even though the figures seem a lot. With a degree apprenticeship, though, you don't have to worry about that at all, because the person that you're working for while you're doing your apprenticeship, or the company that you're working for, they will actually pay your tuition fees for you. So you never have to worry about paying them back. Not only will they pay your tuition fees, they'll actually pay you too. So if you're doing a degree apprenticeship, you'll get paid while you learn. Now, you won't get as much money as somebody who's already qualified to do that job. But depending on your age and depending on the company you work for, you can get a decent amount of money whilst you're working. So just to give you an idea, if you're aged between 18 to 20, you can be paid £6.15 or more per hour. If you're aged 21 to 24, that would go up to £7.70 per hour. And if you're aged 25 or more, that would be £8.21 per hour. So you can get quite a good wage. Like I said, the company that you're working for might actually pay you more than the minimum wage. So you might end up doing a job for £18,000 or £21,000 a year, which is really, really great, depending on what apprenticeship that you end up doing. So hopefully this has given you some food for thought and got you to start thinking about what you might want to do in the future and what pathway that you might want to take. But it's not over now, so I want to talk about deciding what's right for you. And unfortunately, I can't make that decision for you. There's not an easy way for you to decide what's right for you. It's all about doing your research. So start having a think after today about, is there a specific career that you're interested in or a specific course that you're interested in? Think about what qualifications do you need to do those courses or those careers. Think about what type of learner you are. So are you someone who'd really thrive at university with classroom-based learning, more traditional forms of learning, or would you really thrive in a work environment doing some really hands-on learning and learning on the job? And think about what your priorities are as well. So are you somebody who would really like the student experience where you get to meet lots of different people your age, you get to potentially travel all over the world, you get to move out and live independently, you get to explore your hobbies and interests? Or are you somebody who's really motivated by going into work, knowing what job you want to do. Maybe you're quite money motivated and you think that an apprenticeship could be really right for you because of that. So finally, to help you start thinking about those questions and to help you with your research, I've suggested some websites that might be really useful for you. So the first one is careerpilot.org.uk. So there's lots of information on there about what your options are, starting from GCSE and then after GCSE as well. So it will look at things like A-levels or alternatives to A-levels, apprenticeships, degrees, what careers they could lead on to. So there's lots of information on there for you to start exploring. You could also go to prospects.ac.uk, and this is a great website because it's got a whole list of graduate job profiles. And it lets you take a quiz to see what careers might suit you. So it will ask you things about your skill set, your interests, and then it will match you to different jobs. That's a really good one because if you aren't really sure what you want to do now, there might be some jobs out there that you've never even heard of before that would really, really suit you really well. And then you can start looking at what skills would I need for those jobs, what qualifications would I need for those jobs, what experience would I need, so you can make sure that you're really prepared. And finally, there's ucas.com. So UCAS is basically the place where universities will list the courses that they offer. So you can see a really, really big variety of university courses online on that website, and start having a think about which ones might suit you. And it's also got a page about apprenticeships, and it lists some current apprenticeships that you can apply for as well on there. There's one more thing to mention, which is there's also an Exploring Universities interactive PowerPoint that you could use for your research that has been sent to your teacher alongside this presentation. So there's just one more thing for me to say, which is thank you for participating, for listening to this session. And just to remind you that if you do want to get in touch to ask us any questions about anything that was covered during this presentation, please do so by emailing us. You can contact us at sro@aston.ac.uk. We'd also really appreciate it if you could take the time to fill in our evaluation form, which you should be able to access just by clicking the link on the screen. But if you can't access it, I have also sent the link to your teacher. It should only take you a couple of minutes to complete, and your feedback will help us to make any presentations that we're delivering for students in the future a bit better. So thanks again and stay safe. Bye.